and Children's Services Committee, which has been conducted from the Chamber and remotely through Microsoft Teams. Translation facilities are available for this meeting. Please ensure that you have your headsets set if required, which are available at the back of the chamber. Please ensure your microphones are off, and before we begin, I would like to invite the Reverend Jardine to lead us in prayer. Thanks, Reverend. Yep.
O most gracious God, that thou would be pleased to bless the work of this committee. We pray thy blessing upon the schools of these islands and upon all the sporting activities and the libraries and the work of the children's services. And we pray that thou would be with all of the councillors and their particular responsibilities in this community. And we pray thy blessing to be upon the officers of the council also in the fulfilment of all of their particular duties. We pray that thou would bless these islands and that thou would enable us to be looking to thyself for that necessary grace for the fulfilment of every duty and responsibility that we have to others in time. And we pray thy blessing to rest upon us here, and that thou would grant that the discussion and the decision making would all be that which would fall out for the good of these islands and for time to come. And we pray that thou would be pleased to take the glory to thyself and to forgive our many sins. For Jesus' sake. Amen.
Thanks, Reverend Jardine. So before we start, I just want to highlight some good news to members. So Skolnaback received a UNICEF Gold Award as a rights-respecting school on the 25th of April 2025, marking 6 years of dedication from staff, pupils and parents. On the 17th of May 2025, the school was awarded an eco-school status for another 2 years, with their efforts in global citizenship, climate change and school grounds recognised positively by Keep Scotland Beautiful. Castle Bay. Ocean Youth Trust. 10 S2 to 3 pupils and 2 staff embarked on a 6-day sailing adventure aboard a 70-foot yacht covering 238 nautical miles and earned their competent crew certificates. The journey included a challenging 16-hour sail from Greenock to Belfast. The return trip tested their endurance with overnight sailing in 3-hour shifts, facing intense winds and tides. Their efforts were rewarded with a well-earned beach barbecue in Carradale, where they declared it sunnier than Spain. Sounds like a good trip. I wish I could have gone. Eilean Trust. Staff, pupils, current and former, participated in the Edinburgh Marathon Festival 10K and half marathon this past weekend. One staff member had to run around Barrow due to Saturday's flights being cancelled. They raised an amazing £2,500 for Eilean Trust. The trust set up in memory of Aileen MacLeod for music tuition. Stornoway Primary. Stornoway Primary featured in the recent published Pupil Equity Funding Report 2025. The video highlights their approaches to supporting children's health and well-being and the measures taken to close the attainment gap between the most and least disadvantaged children. Stornoway Primary recently represented the Western Isles at the annual Euro Quiz national competition in Edinburgh. Team did very well, finishing 10th out of 29 teams competing in the final and 560 that took part overall. So that's a really good achievement. Uig School. Following extensive work to develop pupil and staff awareness on children's rights, Uig were recently accredited as Silver Rights Aware School. The school is now working towards becoming a Gold Rights Respecting School. Skolnatobe won a top prize in Keep Scotland Beautiful's Eco School Scotland Awards, marking 30 years of the initiative. Joint winners with Braes High School, they presented their project at an online event on the 29th of May. Pupils took part in a global sea temperature study exploring microfiber pollution in the marine ecosystems and promoted sustainable clothing practices through charity shop visits and poster campaigns. They created a video on microfiber pollution, presenting it to the community, and wrote to MP Torquil Crichton, who later discussed their concerns in the House of Commons. The students also reached out to King Charles about their environmental concerns and received a reply from Buckingham Palace. Their efforts showcase commitment to sustainability and advocacy on a national level. So that's a really good thing. That's really good what they've done there. Sgol na Rwb. On the 22nd of April, Sgol na Rwb Team A won the regional Coach na Clenia competition for a second year running, retaining their title and a place in the national final to be held in Inverness on the 4th of June. They did very well at the national finals, making it all the way to the grand final, just losing out to an Inverness team. The Nicholson Institute. The school's S3 football team won the North of Scotland Challenge Cup this year, beating Mintlaw 6-4 in the final. The school also saw footballing success with their team winning the national Coach na Clenia secondary Gaelic school football competition in June. S6 pupil Grace MacLeod has raised over £5,500 for Macmillan Cancer Group through holding bake sales. Art and Music Department have also been busy preparing for the Sound of Music show. Performances on the 13th and the 11th of June were very well received and were played to full houses. So there's a heck of a lot been going on. Laxadale Primary School is even more. Hosted its annual sports week to maintain its Gold Sports Award, with students enjoying a range of activities including football, rugby, rounders, tug of war, a mini marathon and a swimming gala. The week kicked off with an inspiring assembly featuring Eilean Games footballer Luke Morrison and Angus MacDonald. Highlights included a sunny whole school day sports day on Wednesday, a mini marathon on Thursday that raised £500 for Western Isles Cancer Care Initiative, and a swimming gala on Friday with 48 participants from P4 to P7. Beyond competition, Sports Week fosters kindness and encouragement with pupils earning house points for good sportsmanship. Classroom learning focuses on the Eilean Games and the participating islands, including Orkney. So as you can see, there's a heck of a lot going on in our schools. All really good stuff, and congratulations to all the schools that have been doing such good work. Right, so we'll move on. Please note that items 14 and 15 will be taken in private at the end of the meeting, and I am ruling item 12 as urgent to allow the matter to be considered before the next meeting. And it's just a final reminder to tell you all that the meeting is recorded and it's available on the caller's website following this meeting. So we'll start with item 1, which is the minute of the meeting of the 29th of April 2025. Do members agree to approve the minutes? Okay, thanks. Item 2, declaration of interest. Members are asked to declare any interest that they have in any item on the agenda, and it will be helpful if members express why they are declaring an interest in the item concerned. Members in the meeting, please do so now by pressing your microphone or remotely through Teams by using the raise hand function. Is there anyone who has a conflict of interest? Oh yes, I didn't see. I'm going to take these glasses off. Councillor Crichton.
Gwarach u yn y cwsbar hyn tia gysgaig fel niach y ffynis nhw gwybod as yn hyrafas gynghorisyn. A hyr a ti'n lig mi ffagil nhw yma. Son yn hwysbar sio.
Okay, thanks. Cheers. Dokie, right. So we'll move on to performance monitoring, item 3. Outcome delivery report. This report details the year-end progress of the 24-25 departmental strategic priorities for education, skills and children's services department. And Donald MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Donald.
More an taith Cariche. As you told an Irish show, Irish Libre William on a committee in you at Fischer Mayen and Arnalie, the Oper a committee as of Leona. Davila fichit a keirko fichit a coic, so she darnalie and of Leon Hashin with an Irish growing. Took me gan three husperin a machas an Irish cane, have me tick skill an Irish fatta, sculptor Fischer on Mayen, Oper a Rainiac in heen, no bit about generation flana, Agus Tuk mi mach gan y chwysbyn aus yn orson fi'n tolig cystion sy'n mi fo bail mae un cael nach al mir brin mae un. Dyrch tors tuk like Siar pwynt hyn, chan i'r gyn y chwrnart rwy'n i lochgol ac y rhain ac yn hun, so chan i'r cael ac yn i chwrs sin. Tuk mi nard cwtch gan y cwsbyn tro Parste Sheikh gan y naisg. Tors Sheikh pwynt y ga, go Sheikh pwynt y hwch, has ni tor Sheikh het fysig so yn oper ha a rein ffalm heen er vi genius an aardige kollenig scholar agus oper liadach oper skolchen harish in arne pars gan vlione a torm mit nevi tachert as na skolchen akin a kuch gan fysig as ni kleintje met ha nu a gan hofik akin er vi koper gemoor as na siamies na show is on liadach oper skolchen agus aardige kollenig kuch agus a kuch gan harven as een naish getort fysig sin. Harish nach húsbad ac Siar Sheikh Brorga, Sheikh pwynt gych, ha fys mae oper yn promis yn art sgolfig nekel, se oper 4 fa hynny is fi sio, sa tor taich de chwanya ac fel diolas cwrym, agus cwt de gadas yn ala chymich i'r cwrym chwanya yn y vreim na eich diag, agus angadas a sio nisha tor taich de skolarin ac fel family yn y farach, agus ha de genu oper 4 fa, sfashin tolig sy'n eich yn ymliwna. On y rein spors, yr eich cydioch tor yn efi tachart is on liadach yn oper as na gadas yn sy'n cydioch. Tog mi ag Sheikh pwynt fichyd cydioch gael yn gadas yn de service in de rast de goper gemoor genetical is on gemen international in Eilean agus de tacher dus on genetical sin on a nachgif en avias agus angadas just vi genetoris on sin. Dokal kujok ak Sheikh pwynt fichyd saga en artig is as in nie fiken en hoish nog tokal slantje va sin harven het dan art gemoor sin agus sin game fer sin tokal koskish a rein Jimmy Hewlett slantje va a chashin has de fiken arven a geri den het gwal de sin so she should ma sin kujok on a Siar Sheikh pwynt fichyd sa 3 go Sheikh pwynt fichyd sa ceher bysach yma un cwrym chlania agus ffilm ac na tra iren. A ffys hasgal tor oper ac yn ianir y sio sa cwr ag yn ys fiacing as a sio mar sio hyn mae lyn iadach eich cwrym chlania agus ffilm as na tra iren. Ha ffysach as yn aisg mae un yn oper as yn i gen yma ra a chasyn ys fi gen y tylig oper ymliwn as yn rhamasgol ianir ysyn agus ficyn far y sŵring yn barach yn ianir sy'n taich gyhort dy hialig agus dy noeg ddyslig a hacyn. Dol harish Gaelic cwsberg yma Comhairle is on y Comhairle. A fashion gyma tolig dys yn oper a fashion nes fi genu as a gynaimse le tokal barach skol as a Gaelic. A sy'n nes y ffeicyn harish cyrgyt sy Sheikh pwynt yn sychiad dy skolar yn y chyn stech dy ffilm dy fi yn y Gaelic ag torsach yn afliwn ag sydd ffyr ma sy'n agus am ei tankl sy'n oper yr ein i rein is on liadach yn araf sy'n se ardach ag ysmwy as yn i'r ffeicyn is on bliwn i chyn. Cydioch cydrymach a tor ni fi tachart yr ein re Gaelic agus liadach y siarfys as yn y siarfys liorolain agus a ffys mae un sy'n on y Sheikh pwynt trichyd sy'n ga tri go Sheikh pwynt trichyd sy'n naich sy'n gyma tolig sy'n oper ha ni fi tachart on y siarfys liorolain agus haisg ac eich ometi ni mae un sy'n cydioch agus ffyrir sy'n corym barach fys o gyfer hort y siarfys a sy'n cydioch. Dolar erd go innovish ha a fysach mae un araf innovation ac jirig of liwne as yn aisg ac o'ch pwynt hyn, tri go o'ch pwynt o'ch yn harfyn o'ch pwynt hyn y lie a sy'n. Ddim i togal gro aharach ag hyn tro trading operations gro charo yn overspend ac yn sy'n bylach o môr so fasyn i sŵlach session tort ash fasgir liechyd liechyd mila níor bheith fasgir liechyd mila na bylygyn a fasyn i sŵlach sy'n so han arf sy'n yr gol sias chan i'r ywyd ag overspend fasyn i sŵlach yn torsach yn y hyn gydioch so sy'n bac yn y siar na fasyn i sŵlach ac yn aim. So am i tolig yn eich cystion sy'n mi hwgal fo bail mae un cael a fasyn aisg is o'n jirych y fliwn fichid sa ceir go fichid sa coig.
I just want to just quickly mention, I think this report clearly highlights the amount of work that's going on in the schools throughout the islands, and a lot of it's is unheralded, and we talk in the chamber about issues and challenges that we have, but you show how the report shows how much work is actually happening and how many good things are actually going on, and as I say, they're well below the radar. You don't always hear about them, but it's a constant thing that's happening all the time. So it's really to be congratulated. So does anybody have any questions? Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Don, for the report. Very comprehensive report. There's a lot of reading in it. Can I just highlight under 8.1, Head of Education? And I've been heard. Yeah, that might have got a repetition in my voice, sir.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. Yeah. I think I'm bad. Head of Education, it's noted in the middle of the report, the early years, a significant underspend of 281,000 for the year. This has impacted the service, as you know yourself, Mr. Crowd. It's got an impact when there is an underspend, and I take it that it's because of the problems of recruiting. But it has an impact. I know of a school, for instance, that has early years in English education, or Gaelic learners as they're called now, and they've had to abandon the class for the day. Now it's hard on parents, and parents have complained to me about that. Actually, they've got the children ready, and they're finding that they haven't enough staff. So there's a message goes out to say to them that there's no earlier school for that day, and that's because of the lack of staffing. So I'm just highlighting the importance of this at early years, and then what they did with their child is they transferred the child to another school. That is going to have an impact on that school as well, because if they're enrolling in the early years, it's possibly that they'll go on with that school outside their own catchment area. So I'm just highlighting that as a direct result of the fact, and it's got, you cannot apportion blame. I know it's to do with lack of staffing, because they do say the head teacher has been apologetic and saying that it's because of lack of staffing.
I'm just a record, Case Corlchia McLean of Yala. The underspend that you've identified there, Councillor McLean through the chair, is partly to do with some underspend related to staffing, and I very much take your point, and it's an issue that we have wrestled with throughout this year in 2 to 3 locations across the islands. It's been challenging to recruit staff to a sufficient level, particularly qualified earlier staff and qualified earlier staff that have a fluency in Gaelic that can go into our Gaelic playrooms. So as I highlighted in the report, we're seeing really strong uptake in Gaelic medium education, and that is testament to a very effective early years Gaelic service, as well as the work we are doing to promote Gaelic medium education. However, that is in the challenging circumstances of recruiting sufficient staff. And it is very, very disappointing and a concern to us when we have had to either reduce the hours or in very occasional circumstances have to close a service for the day, where it has just been absolutely not possible to have sufficient staff in place to operate the service. From my own analysis of that, it has been on very rare occasions, and that has been able to be limited as much as we possibly can. And we are really challenged in this policy area, because it's a fundamental of our service that we keep a high quality, immersive Gaelic experience for our pupils in GME early year settings. There are circumstances where we could possibly have got staff that were English speaking to maintain services, but that collapses the Gaelic immersive experience and creates a poorer experience for the learner in their language. So that is a challenge for us in terms of how we balance that difficult demand. But we continue to work with our early year service and with colleagues across the council to bring through more qualified staff, to bring through more staff who have fluency in Gaelic, who can support the language in the early year settings. But I have to acknowledge that you're absolutely right, Councillor McLean, that we have had some challenges this year, and particularly 2 settings where it has been very difficult to recruit to, with posts being reissued 4 or 5 times, with incentives and encouragements to try and attract candidates to them. In some ways, we have been victims of our own success, where we've trained staff and they've gone on into other roles within the Comhairle, which is a positive career journey for them, but does mean that we sometimes struggle to backfill into the posts that they've vacated. But I do want to reassure members on this chamber that we continue to work on trying to address that issue.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, can I come in against that?
Yeah,
But it's not only in Gaelic medium, it's in English medium as well. If we like to call it Gaelic learners, that is the problem as well. So it's in both. It's in both these, and it's incumbent upon us, actually, as you say yourself, to address this as quickly as we can.
I think I'm aware of the setting that Councillor McLean is referring to, and that was had some particular issues as well that related to sufficient manager posts being able to be present to operate the service, but that has subsequently been addressed. I know it is very challenging, but we do continue to try and work on making sure we have sufficient staff in every setting.
Okay, thanks. Councillor McCormack.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I can't find anywhere in the report, Chairman, reference to music education, and it has been drawn to my attention that it is perhaps the case that if you wish to learn a musical instrument nowadays, you have to pay for it, and I'm hoping you're going to tell me that that is not true, because that would be most unfortunate. I just wondered if you could confirm what exactly the situation is at the moment. We've just had a wonderful concert in the Nicholson Institute, really, and lots of wonderful music going on there. So somebody's teaching something music somewhere. But just exactly what is the situation? Is it open to all children to have music tuition free?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that, Chair. It's not referenced in this report because it wasn't linked specifically to any of the strategic priorities we're reporting on in this paper. But I can reassure Councillor McCormack that our youth music initiative continues to be in place, and young people from primary 5 upwards can subscribe to the learning of a musical instrument from that age. They do an initial induction through the Comhairle programme, and then are able to select instruments and receive tuition in them. And that is a universal offer that for as long as the child wishes to undertake it. In addition, we have funding in place to remove the costs of music instruction in secondary and through the removal of any fees for education costs. So any young people who are wishing to take their music instrument learning to a higher level, or wish to take it as part of a music qualification, be that a National 5, a higher, or onwards, they are able to have instruction at the appropriate level to be able to do that. So I can reassure Councillor McCormack that provision is unchanged and continues to be in place.
Councillor Francis Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I think what I'm going to say echoes very much what you said in your opening comments, the good news before the meeting. Looking at outcome 2.1.3, schools are centres for lifelong learning and key assets for the community. There are 2 paragraphs there, and I almost wonder if there should be another paragraph. And Councillor McCormack mentioned the musical in the Nicholson last week, and I can only speak for that because it's the one I attended. But I'm sure up and down the islands there were fantastic end of term performances or shows, or something along these lines going on, going over and above what the curriculum is, and bringing it really importantly, bringing the community into the preparation, whether it's parents who help with the costumes or members of the public who help with musical provision, and then bringing the community in as an audience. And I think doing that has so many benefits for the young people, curricular wider than the curriculum, preparing them for life, but it also has a really, really important role in the community. And I think people coming out of musical events or dramatic events in their own local school, whether they've got a connection or they had a connection with that school or they have no connection with it, they've gone as an audience member, they feel uplifted by it. And I really do feel that that's worth recording as something in the future as a key, how schools are key assets for the community, because I think it goes beyond just, you know, a building that people are allowed to hire. It's how the school itself brings the community in and has a back and forth relationship with the community.
Yep, I agree.
Ha mi tolig tukal am hoig a hook cornig morach seo agus bín tolig chuir gan nahaisc a sin tor chun committee nahidir sig naisk seo Michael is an tukal dé ha scolt in a Gianu leis na coins noch ganach goharad ceant die drama agus ceol ha fis go céintkil sin na tachartari sin na hilen in fat agus a as gojoch an antíroch as na scolt in héin ach had sir Lúten a tachart as a choinsnoch mar a vod agus na fésin kujoch agus na mi céideach go mi seoir a hocal as a naisk a nahuid a sig go na committee.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Norrie Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just going to make a couple of remarks about a couple of issues that, not issues, just portions of the report. 7.2 particularly. On behalf of WIGA, I'd like to thank the authority for the continued support, without whose investment WIGA wouldn't be able to continue to participate in the Island Games. We're well supported across the Comhairle in many aspects of what it is we do at WIGA, and what we're trying to do as almost a pinnacle organisation, an umbrella organisation for the clubs, is drive more people in at the grassroots. You know, if it's a pyramid structure, we're trying to get more people in at the bottom so that they see what we are doing and they want to be part of it. So I'm pleased to note that there's an 8% increase in Sláintebhath, and I think having accessibility to sports facilities in our schools, etc., and making that as affordable as possible and as accessible as possible is just great for communities, and making our schools estates. I know we have to work with FES in some of these estates, but having the community access facilities is pivotal to having a healthy population, which is what we're all trying to strive to achieve. And I know elected members and politicians across the board don't ever see more than beyond a 4 or a 5 year cycle, but if we're looking at long term, we want a healthier population, and I think participation in sport and accessibility, getting people into our football pitches and gyms, etc., across the piece is hugely important. So I'd like to thank the Comhairle for the continued support and the investment in sport and leisure that we've got. I think it's second to none given the budgetary constraints across the piece every single year. I'd also like to pick up on you made mention of childcare and childcare provision. I think it's pivotal across not just this committee, but I think this afternoon's committee, Sustainable Development, that when it comes to childcare and investing in childminders, child carers, etc., going forward, you know, to underpin what it is we're trying to do to sustain our communities, I think it's important that we try to get as much investment and as many folk trained as possible, so that we don't have people suggesting that they might be having to leave the island because they can't get adequate child care facilities. I think it's pivotal to every single thing that we're trying to do as an authority, and I think childcare will come to the fore. And I would like to think that over the next, well, maybe not the summer months, but certainly after the recess, we get back onto the bike and make sure that we are pedalling hard to make sure that childcare is to the fore of what it is we're trying to do across several committees in the Comhairle. And I think it's pivotal going forward that we have adequate childcare. I think everybody knows this, but it's good to see it's been highlighted. Thanks.
Thanks. Right, so if there are no other questions, Councillor Ray Mackenzie. Mic on here? Nope, nobody's coming on. Who's got a mic on?
I have, but
No, it shouldn't. It should be 3, shouldn't affect it. It is. You're on.
I'm on. Okay. Yeah, thank you. A good report. Yes, very full and detailed report. I'd like to agree with Councillor Norrie with the two remarks he made there on a general basis. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at the last Education Committee, but I noticed there's reference, there was reference to the Stornoway Primary Sports update, hall, additional hall. And I'm just, it just needs a one-word answer. Is it going to be on time, as it was said, that it would be completed next year? Because it's been going on for years and years and years. Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just answer one word. It was just
Yeah,
short.
a mi tón sé rasta in the chus yn yswylach gmi a chien gmin nogloch fasglyf ac yn aim a fasglyf tas yn aich cych con a chymiti ma yere.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. So if there's no other questions, do members agree to note the report? Agreed, thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 4, which is local government benchmarking framework 2023-24 and provides an update on the performance in local government benchmarking framework indicators relevant to education skills and children's services. To set out performance against improvement targets, again, Mr. MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions.
Thank you,
Who's
Chair.
speaking? Oh, sorry, Neil's speaking. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Different Mr. MacLeod, yeah, sorry about that. Jeez, it's been a long day already.
Too many Mr. MacLeods.
No, I forgot we did it in the briefing as well. So it makes it even worse. Right, okay, carry on.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, the report provides an overview of performance in relation to the local government benchmarking framework indicators for 2023-24, with a particular focus on the improvement ones that we identified in literacy and numeracy, school attendance and exclusion, looked after children, and those in more than one placement. So these were the key ones that we identified. It illustrates in paragraphs 6.1 to 6.12 the trends and improvement actions. Some of that information has been covered in more detail in Mr. MacLeod's previous report and the outcome report, which gives a wider illustration of the work that's been undertaken within the department across these areas. 7.1 shows performance against 2023-24 targets across all the indicators. Some of the points out of it: positive trend in literacy. It's above a Scottish and family group average. Numeracy's fallen slightly in 2023-24. However, it's still above the milestone target that we had set for it. School attendance rates are increased slightly from the previous reporting period, and as it states in the report, a lot of work is underway within that area within the department. School exclusions have increased, but again, a new policy's been approved, and we're looking forward to how that will impact on exclusions over the coming year. Also, the proportion of children looked after in the communities decreased. Difficult for these percentages to show, if you like, because 1 or 2 children make such a big difference for this area with the low number of looked after children that we have. Happy to take any questions that members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Neil, and apologies for getting it wrong again. So does anybody have any questions for Neil? Okay. Who've we got? Councillor MacDonald.
Just following up what I said at the last item, I see at the bottom here, percentage of adults satisfied with leisure facilities, 81%. I think given the amount of other authorities who are struggling to keep their facilities open, I think we should be commended that we rank 4th and 81% satisfied with our leisure facilities. I think that speaks volumes for the work being done in the department again. So I can commend the authority for continuing to keep such a high standard and access for all. Thanks.
Thanks, Noel. Thanks. So if there are no other questions from anyone, do members agree to approve the recommendations at 3.1? Okay, thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 5, which is a report by HM Inspectors of Education at Scoil and Scolari June 2023. The reported item 5 details the outcome of the inspection at Scoil and Scolari by His Majesty's Inspectors from Education Scotland. Miss Patricia MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Patricia, you're on.
Tapla the charige. Another show again she gave my yen na screwed the chaianu on the garan mleone. Han skubba the chemaya kwada the bun skolavine, marshin chajachat the stach and the scholarich and tripshow. Han canard at the ramal, on the drase, as via the mobach, gumur or son the scholar hort a third. Deinen skol erdes femol an se hude ache lesichi. Dein thor erdes an se hiat da harakach, huf canardas agus fulben buki. Dein jo erdes kujoch is een na harakachele, huf curriculum agus gardige colony. Han hanarde tor taich shachet gan a wuch gobrach gloaset gulua tron een planne lesichi na skole. Bi mi heen, mar ard hanard a cummel leis an taich crue mar a vami. Han eetje maid al heen a dash an de mleone son a jano kaintjoch gewel shesvoch an sen erdes. As sin son gemir an Comhairle a tor taichgus kujocha gan a skol ton of leone. Is ha mi jonach kisten sa mi agual.
Thanks. Thanks. So does anybody have any questions? Councillor MacLean.
Can I ask a question? Is this how many times has HMI come to Uig school?
Had it be on 3 trip?
3 trip, because in the ocean trip Eilean. But that's 4
times.
4 times, yeah. That's a significant number of times that HMI have to visit a school. I know there's been a problem over recruitment or staffing. What percentage of the school is Gaelic?
Ha thorgen a skol an Gaelic mu 8% mag het hier an Gaelic.
80%.
80%, sorry.
80%, yeah. So the other 20%, so there's only really a significant number. Everyone's significant. So we've only got and is the secondary then a straight through primary 1 to 7, the English?
Yes.
It's a straight through 1 to 7.
There's somebody in every class.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, it's not the easiest, because in other classes you would split primary 1, 2, 3, and 4. But then this is a straight through from 1 to 7. Gaelic.
So ha class in Gukehid an agus ha class Koigashaka.
Would you say that the problems, and there is problems obviously, and we have to say there is problems, is more in the Gaelic than in the English? It's overall.
Yeah, agus still mish gewel ha na traplatje na haide vi an had the China third in the legislation, so ha erdes bore de vi an.
It's another show. So there was an action plan at first visit. Second visit, third visit. Is it the same action plan, or was it development of the first one?
It's development of the first one. Ha sturig ma de vi an.
Yeah.
The action plan.
Yeah, it's good to see improvement. It's good to see this improvement, but it's taken some time.
It's really a case.
Yeah.
So it's really a case of coming back and monitoring to make sure that those reports, that action plan is being implemented.
Yes,
constantly been into, and that's really just them doing that.
That's right. What HMI do, if they do see improvement in it, they won't come back.
No.
Well,
so you've gone.
Femiad vi fick in chessvocht has sustainability, and that's why they're visiting in a year.
That's right.
So
yeah.
You come in. I don't want to come in.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm Giro Giori in the Czech Cool that I counting in the show could just maar I counting wat torgen in the deletes in the school can die sturen agus ceanartas agus is té in arna turis HMI vi as a school gaarige jennu ceanartas a scola agus a sinna níos ardas fóra fod corums yn ardus fod i enw as ysgol, agos gyharys le taich yng Nghorlan Ies, a hort gan ysgol cydioch. Adr narna agos yn tri tŵrys ag eich mai yn chwn ysgol, hachar tor, ach chyrwach chich gari chig ysgol as yn ardus a sy'n ianu. Am ysgol gyda ni'r fad siamias yn ardus a sy'n ianu. Agos fad, mae'r ysgrif sy'n eich fad gymatholig sy'n ardus a fad ni'r tachart. Ach sy'n dirwch gylad y gyuri dyn y ceidioch e tŵrys ela gyda sy'n siesfor ar ys gylad dolianting eich sy'n y bliwn yn rwy'n. Agos sy'n ni gwybod y rast is son gen y ceidioch gyda sy'n ni tort corum gan yng Nghanart fi as y seich yw sy'n ystwyrig a sy'n y hort gan ysgol. Sy'n y bliwn yn rwy'n.
So is there anybody else want to ask any questions? No. Oh, yeah, sorry, Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah. I'm not an ex-teacher, so I don't know as much as Colin about this, but I do have a kind of teaching in my family. So I realise how hard it is for anybody to go into a school and turn it around, and it's difficult to address where performances have been poor. And I know it's like turning a ship around. It does take some time. I think there needs to be a commendation for anybody who goes in there and works to achieve the changes that have been achieved over the last couple of years. And the work now is to underpin that and move forward. So I think it's we should pat the folk who have invested their time and effort in turning the school around and pat them on the back. I think it should be recognised.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor MacDonald. Yes, definitely. She's done a fantastic job, actually. So it definitely should be noted and should be recognised. Anybody else? Okay, right. So do members agree to the recommendations at 3.1? Thanks. Right, so we'll move on to item 6, which is education provision review of mothballed school provisions 2025-26. This provides an update in relation to mothballed educational provisions at Tolster School, Brezaclit School, Park School and Burnham School, and to review the status of each as is required annually. Again, Ms MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks.
Hanad seo a gyn se gaif ma yen ysgolchin byn sgol holastai byn sgol fiarnarai a ha dolgu colchonaltrach haris a ddim leone a hyf dúnach karst agus cúdioch ha gyn se gaif mu at an ban a ha sin son a chamal chesiol son clown a ddiest ma ha gylior awn. Is ein tyn at galig an ysgol na padca seo agus yn tyn at biola an ysgol vriasglitch. A byn sgol holastai edrych fi dúnch ach edrych camal chesiol son coig chorus coig blion yn ish. Chan yl liwrydys clari edrych fi awn. A byn sgol fiarnarai an sy'n siochach ach sawn son cyhydd blion a haedd fi dúnch ach chesiol son y fi ma'n ambig sy'n ga iwri. Han tynad an ysgol na pad gedde fi dúnch ach chesiol fo da filas y ffigit a hyn ag chan yl liwrydys awn son yn tynad yn blion. Ys ein rwyd son yn tynad an y vriasglitch, gyda fa iwrydys byg awn nid y gwyn ein hosioch chan yl cael edrych fi awn von nwrsyn. Ha cosgish a ha loib gach sgol agus ynad an sy'n afish son sgrwydych. Agus ddys am i jonach cystion y gwaled ysyn.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Ranald, Councillor Fraser online.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question with reference to the continued mothballing of the English medium provision at Breaclit School. I note within the report it suggests that this provision could be made available again if a suitable cohort was bestowed. I wonder if Mrs MacLeod could provide an example of what form a suitable cohort would require to be for this provision to be offered again in the future.
We'd be looking at a viable cohort. I'm unsure of the numbers. I would have to get clarity on that, but looking at good social experience for children as well as a good educational experience. I wouldn't like to put a number on it myself just now.
It has to be sustained as well.
Just to clarify Councillor Fraser's question there as well, the Council currently doesn't have a policy on a set number that has to be achieved for a provision to be either considered for closure or, for that matter, reinstated. It is a judgment of officers based on enrolment and the consideration of the committee should a viable cohort be identified, whether it wishes in a committee decision to reinstate the provision. There needs to be, as has been described, a viable cohort that can be effective in the delivery of Scotland's curriculum. So there does need to be a number of children there that would have to be able to interact with each other, be sustainable across the cohort of ages, and that we can see as well that there's a potential future throughput of children into that provision for years to come as well. It wouldn't be possible, for instance, if a group of children appeared in a single year group to reinstate the provision with no further children coming in any future year groups behind that. So the ultimate answer is that there's no set number. It will be based on the enrolments coming forward at any given time, and for the Chamber to consider what it wished to do in reflection of what that number was.
Councillor Fraser, did you want to follow up at all?
Yeah, just for my own benefit, could Mr MacLeod offer up any past examples where a suitable cohort was there to sustain, say, Gaelic or English medium streaming within a school?
Yes, I can provide that for Councillor Fraser. The last example we had of that was at Uig School, which we have recently just spoken about. That provision had a mothballed Gaelic in previous years, and a viable cohort was identified to reinstate Gaelic medium provision within Uig School, and that was subsequently done, and it's proved to be very successful actually, in that it's subsequently overtaken the provision of English Gaelic learners in the school, and has become the predominant language of instruction in the school. So that's the most recent example we have of where a school had gone down to a single language stream and a provision was mothballed. Subsequently, a viable cohort identified and reinstated, and has been successful.
Okie dokie.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr MacLeod.
Thanks, Reynolds. Is there any other questions at all? Councillor John A. McKeever.
Abloed niach garach, chyn mi gan nam fawr gan y chymryd sio. Mr MacLeod, nôr gyda le ceint nach dan I gyr dy symi pob hardd yn a talostag eisiau yn ysgol esgyr.
Verzoening Frankenstein ha le ceint yr ath fys ac un nach dan I gyr dy symi ac I'm clari sgol for scholar yn symi parach sgol holostach ac yn ffornaim y fad dŵnch. A fys am gyda parent yn y ces noch ydych corym minus on cwrym chlania as ysgire a cha dan I gyr dy symi chan y chorla idger as ne blionig yn ysgol yn efi dŵnch is son clarach yn ysgol I gan y fynt sgol. So ha ceint ac un nachal sy'n y tachart. Gymwr ffron nhw yn clarach gylier yr y fi ysgol y fac.
Thanks. Thanks. Right. So if that's if there are no more questions, do members agree to the recommendations at 3.1? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item 7, which is School Engagement Officer. The reported item 7 provides an update on the current role and operational progress of the School Engagement Officer, a service delivered in partnership between the Comhairle and Police Scotland. Mr. David Downham will speak to the report, and both Mr. Downham and PC Steele are available to answer any questions. I just want to welcome Mr. PC Steele to the meeting and hope you're. Oh, I would say hope you're enjoying it, but yeah, it's an experience. Right. Okay. If Mr. Downham wants to speak, please. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. As was kind of highlighted there was a need identified by Police Scotland and the Comhairle to reduce youth antisocial behaviour within our communities. Police Scotland and the Comhairle collaborated to create a school engagement officer who would be based in the Nicholson Institute, but would also have a responsibility across all of the secondary schools within the Comhairle. Funding was achieved through the Strategic Equity Fund for the agreed initial 2 years from 2024 to 2026. Having completed its first year as the school engagement officer, PC Steele is now planning for his second year in post. This will be the final academic year under the current funding model. Outlined in the report are duties and tasks carried out by PC Steele. Partnerships, success stories and future plans for the role have also been identified. I'm happy to take any questions, and PC Steele is obviously present and available to answer any questions as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, David. Thanks. So does anybody have any questions for either? Wow. You got him getting off lightly there. I was going to say that. Councillor Mackenzie.
I don't know if he is. I'd just like to hear from BC Steel just how we find the first year, and what were the problems, or what are the successes?
That's it. You're on. You're in.
Well, I think initially the problems I felt was public perception of the issues that were going on within the community that maybe were linked to the school as well, and wasn't always the case. There's been quite a lot of success stories from it, from internally, with help from obviously the staff in the school, the agencies that help within as well, and the ELR staff, the staff that work in room 19 within the school. There's a lot of help from the teachers and the exes, which I would say have led to positive outcomes from the kids.
Okay. Who's online?
Thank you.
Who's online now? Oh, Councillor McSween online.
Tapelov. Wat met jou lewe as nahish kmeyen nerd is anu who antisocial behaviour is holding in hech kun je gai ik community safety board maar as een ooit zo dan ik pishoch en hadden we aan de storm like harai agus werd kialan ham is faking gewel gras as een nahish gach ham je son Dunje volg het zo'n nopet ga je nu hafels je wel boetiken het oproch hu nou hadden we dol aan de storm dus tegen kutter mag ze ha een reactie hadden we aan de jeliker in hadden wensje.
Who wants to answer? Councillor McSween's query.
Yeah, I can answer.
Yeah, just answer either of you.
Councillor McSween. Yeah, I think there's been a support from police, senior police officers as well, along with myself and the school and the council for this role. We have been tackling that. I wasn't here before previously, so I wasn't fully aware of the situations that were going on. So I think there's been certain aspects that we've tackled through the antisocial behaviour aspect of stuff. We've looked at working with all the external agencies that assist through PEF, Action for Children, the Shed, Pointers who help and deal with these kids all the way through it as well. I've also sought advice from Action for Children people in Ayrshire about antisocial behaviour and ways that I can use tactics to tackle the problems here. But a lot of it has just been through speaking with folk within the police and the community.
Okay, thanks for that. So Councillor MacDonald was next, I think. Yeah, who's going to switch off the mic? Can you switch off the mic, please, Tam? I've got you covered. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I welcome this initiative when it started, and I still continue to welcome it, and I hope it goes beyond its 2-year funding. I think it's essential that we keep this going for however many years that we can. It's great because we don't hear anything from you. I think your anonymity speaks volumes. If the Nicholson is in the news all the time, it's been latterly for a lot of the wrong reasons, and it's fantastic that that kind of noise has dissipated over your tenure as the school liaison, school engagement officer. And I know you're doing fantastic work in the school. Can I ask just now, with the transition from primary 7 to the Nicholson, do you reach out and go down to the primary schools, and are you speaking to the folk who are making that transition just now? Because this is when you're catching them coming into the school. I think is important as well. This part of your role, getting them when they're making the transition to coming to Stornoway, coming to the town for the school. I think this is the most important time in the school year, and for you to set the groundwork out of what they expect from you and what you expect from them. So, I mean, I think the continuation of the role and doing what you're doing, particularly at this time, is vitally important. And I want to add my congratulations to those you've probably already heard or maybe everybody's thinking it, but sometimes it's difficult to say it. But the role isn't easy. But the fact that we don't hear a lot of noise around about antisocial behaviour and improvement possibly in behaviour speaks volumes for what's actually going on. But can you elaborate on the transitional phase just now and how that's for you?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I've been working with the guidance department within the Nicholson, particularly. I've not been as lucky as to get through City Scott and Linclett and Castleby yet, but this year in particular, we've been looking at going out to some of the schools and doing transitional, just kind of introductions, speaking to them. We had 2 days last week when they were up in the Nicholson on Wednesday and Thursday, so I introduced myself to as many as possible, and through help with the youth workers which work in certain areas in Stornoway North, South and up and back as well, particular. I was up and back school on Friday morning where we were handing out certificates to the P7s that are progressing on to first year. So it has been a case of just them getting to know my face and name, and also for myself getting to know them. Hopefully next year there'll be more of an input going forward. This year, with just everything being new and fresh, it wasn't as fluid as we were hoping for it to be, but they always know that I'm there as an option to go and do a presentation and a talk, and hopefully be able to get into all the schools at some point and speak to them before next year anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor McNeill, I think, was next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. I think you partially answered my question when I was going to ask if you're going to go to Castleby School, and you said that you haven't as yet. When do you intend going down to Castleby, if at all, and what will the form of your visit be? Engagement with the pupils.
Thank you, Councillor McNeill. I've visited each of the schools, Castleby, Linclett and City Scott as well. I've not been there as much as I've hoped to have been this year. I'm in touch with the head teachers of each of the schools to plan to be part of the timetable to go in and perform inputs and awarenesses in classes. We're looking at doing things that are targeted, so cyberbullying seems to be quite popular just now. Anti-bullying's always been an issue, so we're trying to do a campaign with that as well, and raising awareness of issues that can be found online. We're looking at as well as going down for maybe 2 or 3 days, so it's obviously hard to get down and back in the same day, as I'm sure yourselves will understand. So we're trying to organise in advance of when we can go down and spend a couple of days, and not just reach out to the secondary department, but the P7s as well, whilst I'm down there to raise that awareness of me being there and for transition purposes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Right. Oh, sorry, Vice Chair, sorry.
Yeah, just welcome at least Steel, and it was just in addition to what Councillor McNeill said, and I asked this in briefing yesterday, and obviously based on the success that this experience had in the Nicholson, we'd like to share that success with other schools down there. And well, I ask when you go down to Euston Barra to reach out to also the youth cafes and the youth clubs. I see that you're doing good initiatives here with joining with the Action for Children and other groups. If you could do that as well instead of just in the school. So it'd be good to catch up with you as well if you have a minute when you go down there.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Well.
Thanks, Vice Chair. I think Councillor McInnes was next.
Hamish Veen Mishnichtliche Nashka Gahar, the challenge in the SharePoint code, the challenge in the said, but Toru Oloch at the Keen von Hugahar had gone a large score, Oloch at Parleton, Broch, Nerken about the Keen as a large score, because the challenge in Olochan as Further Chorus. Need about three feet GHS here, agus the challenge in the Mivog about all had either van usually go, but coded neither van keer fiet zich hier. Agus hardest more the generation for hannig nofik de stachan. Agus noorsen de challishin shiasik ik nafars kan dash she nuppe de hatele janu ik shiapentje shia as a coins nog agus iliatig geharige mis fuggin je had be oorlog agus ton noodjach agus befien is fugging gan jogin nach heel gekomen zo. Befien en hoort de loop spoors fotanele agus men hoorde in one show aan de stjone van show van ook die geharig niet jeuken waar die dan milk moet als ze wel het tafelnet gas 3 miljoen daar agus als je is goed agus me had de feeling had om voor de genele januus de festkant agus met je kunt jon schon stond daar hij volle me had de giori bij aan de school achter de net mooie school agus men had men had of ik het kwanti lesig janu agus geharig aan de festkant agus op het agus starten usvol hebben schon rond de hele janu dus vind mischig moor de noorden zou de janu aan de bliot.
Thanks, Councillor. So I think Leader was next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillors PC Steele and Mr. Downer for the paper. I think it's an excellent report. Awful lot of good stuff highlighted. So yeah, it's good to see you in the chamber. Hopefully you won't be seeing many of us in the cells. The numbers are quite significant. I think concerns being reported being reduced by 57% is massive, and crime reduction being reduced by 78% is massive. So I think it's really good to see. It says maybe attributed to the SEO presence. I think it probably is, but the may is probably useful just in case those figures change the other way. So useful to have. My question was going to be about the PSYV, the youth volunteer scheme that you're looking to set up in January. What form is that going to take, and what kind of numbers are you looking for? Is it going to be a spread across the whole school, and will there be options to spread that throughout the islands? Thank you, Councillor Steele. So there's something I've been quite keen to get set up here, but it does take a lot of time planning and looking for volunteers. So I'll be searching over the summertime to try and find some other volunteers to assist me with that through not just in Stornoway, but like you said, I'd like to get down to Paris, Eust and Barra as well. It'll be a lot tougher to do it down there, so it might not be as frequent as I'll be able to do it up here. However, I've been speaking with the department in Eilean, which is the police headquarters, where we can organise arranging this. So part of PSYV is open to everybody, but it's also we go to groups such as Action for Children and HEF, and we'll ask them for recommendations on children that they deal with that would be willing to come in and join. So it's not targeted at certain folk, it's open to everybody. It is all inclusive. I will be looking to set it up maybe after Christmas time, so possibly January 2026, just because it does take a lot of time to organise and set up, and again, volunteers, if there's anyone willing to assist on certain nights of the week, can come along. And we'll be looking to run that going forward. I know my timescale potentially could be up in the August 2026, but I'm hoping with PSYV up and running and the kids get involved in stuff through the summer holidays like Hebkelt and EDF potentially, and even if Banner Live's back on, we'll get down to Banner Live. And we'll be able to get the kids showing that there's a keenness as well. They're wanting this to be continued and going forward.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I couldn't think of any difficult questions, so I'll leave it there.
That's Leader. Councillor Morrison, who's got the mic on?
Sorry, me.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee, but this is a good report, and I think it's got to be commended to one and all. But I would like PC Steele not to forget Lochs. I think we're doing a whistle tour of all the other areas and schools, but we do run a successful youth cafe in Lochs. A lot of engagement between North Lochs, Kinloch and Park area. Fiona McInnes-Begg, who sits next to us, well involved with a lot of that work through CLD team as well.
it'd be good if you would come to speak to the youth in the Lochs area, because it is a growing, we are doing good work there. And I think it is good for them to hear of your work in the school, because there is concerns in some of the areas in Lochs about primary 7 children transitioning to the Nicholson, where some maybe prefer to go to the Scott school for one reason or another. So I think it's to allay the fears of the Nicholson that have been out there to some of these children. So I would welcome if you would be able to go and probably put an appearance at a youth cafe, maybe contact our development worker, Suzanne McCauley, who is doing a power of work with the youth in our community at the moment. So I would like to get a collaborative team approach with Macaulay Care, Councillor Mackenzie as well, to bring this forward and to do good work in the Lochs area.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor McCormack, did you have your mic on before? Yeah. You just switch off your mic, please, Don. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very grateful to you. I'm very pleased with this report indeed, I must say. And from the contributions so far from my colleagues, it's clear that we're expecting more and more of you. And it seems to me that it's not going to be possible for you to do all of the things perhaps that we're asking you to do. So I just wondered, well, first of all, I think, Chairman, we would like to ensure that we could continue with this post as long as we possibly could, given the very positive outcomes we've had so far. And you made reference to Eilean in what you said a moment ago. I wondered whether, in terms of getting other officers involved, whether it might not be part of a training session for officers at Eilean, that they come and join with you as part of their training there. I think all officers should have this kind of remit as part of what they do, because if we can encourage young people not to get involved in any kind of difficult situations, then we're making life easier for the police force in general. And I think that's something that we should certainly do. So that was just my observation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McCormack. I think Councillor Crichton was next.
I was just wondering, has your presence on campus generated any interest among young people of pursuing a career on the police?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, there has been quite a few children come up to me in school asking, is there anything they can get involved in? Which has also helped me towards going to PSYV. It's showing that there is an interest in the kids wanting to do something involved in that. I've also been speaking with the workers who do the Duke of Edinburgh Awards and the Saltire Scotland within the school to organise a work experience for the kids, which could be a 12-week programme we're looking to do, maybe even starting it from August, September time, hoping to have it done before Christmas. So that could be something that will also go towards their Duke of Edinburgh Awards, but it shows that they are keen. I've had a few of the senior children coming up to me and asking if they were to print off the application for the police, would I be willing to help them talk them through it? And so I said, yeah, of course, anything like that. So that'll be something I'll be putting into more inputs next year about how to join the police and what being in the police is like, and if there's any more interest, we can try and organise more work experience as well, because I think that's been missing up here for a few years now.
Thanks. Councillor Francis Murray, I'll make this the last question now, because
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to commend PC Steele for the report and note the generous accolades that are given to the partners that he works with. I think the partnership issue is a really, really important one, and I don't think one agency could do that work on its own, and I think that partnership has been really central to what you've achieved, and congratulate you on that. And I think it's important to recognise that this is an initiative that happens in many other areas of Scotland, and it's new to us, and I think we should be learning from the good things that you've told us, the successes you've told us, noting the challenges and noting what my colleagues have said about other inputs. I think it's important that whatever other inputs you're doing, you're not diluting your presence in the schools, which I suppose is first and foremost what your role entails. And I suppose just finally to note my jealousy about your presence in the bus park at the end of the school day. Once upon a time, I would have been very happy to have you beside me at such a time. But no, thanks very much for the report. It's very good news.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Do you want to say something quickly?
Am dúr gyri hyn ysdech gan go mé tocal sa tixing biachcan yn homer yn yw ma yen oper offigar stíl seo agus fisser has an aisk agus am dúr gyri cantig yn rosin aisk i'r aschan yn homer seo gan ysm nid yn chwysig yn nasa i'ch yn y chymitiach chlos y swringen a lorach corman is on yn initiative seo lianting i'r erd fa nefysach yn yson dafliwne is on a chamal adol a cham tocal gmwr yn yw gael biachcan is on Súle hortid dimmer swing yn siol iatach erd agus frishin iais gerash tot fysach agus column the veil smuani hortid dimmer swing yn shininianu.
Thanks. Right, okay, so we'll bring it to a close. So the members agreed to note the report. I'd just like to thank Councillor PC Steele for coming to the committee. I hope it wasn't too bad. And thanks, David, for the work that you've been doing. It's obviously making great strides in this area, so it's great. So thanks. Right, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item 8. This is additional support needs transport, and this provides an overview of a standalone ASN home to school transport policy and to seek approval for its adoption. Mrs. Donna Murray will speak to the report, and both Mrs. Murray and Mr. Ian G. MacLeod are available to answer any questions. Right, thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Chair. So as said, this is a report to provide members with an overview of a standalone ASN home to school transport policy. This would supersede previous guidance from the 2011 home to school transport policy. If we look forward to sections 5.1 through to 5.4, this gives a bit of background to the policy, to why this policy is needed in terms of keeping us in line with Scottish legislation, and in terms of ensuring that we are in line with the national practice model of getting it right for every child. So this policy helps to shape our commitment to inclusive education. If we look through then sections 6.1 through to 6.8 go into a little bit more detail on the policy, and 6.2 in particular introduces a key element of the policy, which is our assessment of needs matrix evaluation tool. And this really gives us a good and a sound basis for making decisions, where we can provide clear evidence about the types of transport that are provided, and this is equitable across our islands. In 6.3, you'll see that the policy also clearly sets out the responsibilities of all. So that includes not just transport operators, but also school staff and parents and carers. The section 6.5 notes that there is space within the policy where we look at our appeals and complaints procedures, and the hope is that this will show transparency and fairness in how these appeals and complaints are dealt with. The policy, as stated in 6.6, gives a varied model of transport provision, and this is very much dependent on the needs of individual pupils and their families. There's also recognition within the policy that our geographic location is at times challenging in terms of our weather conditions and in terms of resource availability. And we recognise that, and we want to make sure that we're responsive to these needs. So in conclusion, the adoption of this policy will ensure that our procedures are legally sound and deliverable. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Donna. So does anybody have any questions for Donna? Councillor McCormack.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the report. Just thinking back to such experience I had of this situation in the past, and I don't think there's a reference to it in the report anyway, but is it still the case that transport will collect young people, take them to school, and then it may sit at that school all day and then take them home at night?
Just to clarify, do you mean, does Councillor mean that the vehicle would sit at the school?
Sure. Sure.
No, that's not necessarily always the case. We try and utilise vehicles as much as possible. So one of the key elements of our children's education is that they get a wide range of experience. So these vehicles are quite often utilised through the day for school trips, for field trips, for community visits, and to develop life skills for our ASN learners as well.
Thank you very much. Right. I mean, I know it did happen in the past that they were sitting there, and there were suggestions as to how the vehicles might be used. And if they're now used, then I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Chair. Donna, this, as you know, that the last a number of years ago, there was parents were quite concerned about the lack of transport for their children with special needs. I noticed that in your report, your consultation does say that this policy has been informed by consultation with key stakeholders. And I take it that that means parents as well. Because, as I say, it's been a contentious issue over the last number of years, and I hope that this one will actually end the contention that was then evident. So I'm just asking about the parents particularly, whether they've been consulted.
Yes, so yeah, I agree. I know that there has been some contention in previous years, and I think that's why we're emphasising that there is a need for this standalone policy. It simply wasn't enough to have there be a section in the home to school transport policy for ASN. It really did require a standalone policy. In terms of consultation with parents, yes, we do work very, very closely with parents, and they have been, we've asked for their views, and again, hopefully the transparency of the information in the policy will help alleviate worries and help parents to see how the process all works, rather than just being given a decision without that background information.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Right, any other? Oh, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chair. I was a bit late there putting my light on. Thanks very much for the report, Donna. I just wondered, has there been a rationalisation of the provision as part of the report? Are you looking at what changes this applying the report would make to the application?
So at the moment, the application of the report doesn't really change anything as it stands. The use of the matrix doesn't change the provision that's being offered to any of our young people currently. I can't think of any examples where their provision is hugely changing from this session into next session. And in terms of the fleet and the vehicles and things like that, that is being maintained. So there's no real changes in that way.
Yeah, if I could, thanks, Chair. Members may remember that there was in the budgets setting for this current year that there was a saving against ASN transport in that paper. That was identified through changes in demand from pupil turnover. It was not sourced through any kind of adjustment to eligibility. So we'd want to reassure members in the chamber that this is not a cost-saving exercise. This is an exercise to make sure that we provide structure, clarity and consistency to our service users. And just to reassure that any savings that were identified in the current year were from pupil turnover and moving on to other services, and not from trying to use a policy to reduce the costs of operation. The policy will try to create a stronger, more consistent framework and may permit, in negotiation with parents, delivery of more efficient ways of providing the transport. But that is an unrequired consequence. It's not a direct intention of the policy.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, the members agree to approve the recommendations at 3.1. Okay, thanks, Donna. Thanks a lot for your input there. Right, I was going to have a quick break here for 10 minutes just to give everybody a chance to comfort break. So we'll be back at 12. If everyone wants to crack on. So, thanks.
Yeah.
Approval for the payment of a grant for the 25-26 year to Volunteer Centre Western Isles. Miss Fiona McInnes-Begg will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is a returning report. I tend to come here on an annual basis to seek approval for the payment of this award to the Volunteer Centre for the Western Isles. And that's because of the level of partnership work that we do with them. If you have a look at 3.4 in the report, it talks about the highlights for the Volunteer Centre over the last year. And in particular, I think it should be noted that 105 organisations provided with volunteer guidance, one-to-one training or support, and developing placements that they were part of organising, and also the number of youth awards, i.e. the Callanish Youth Awards and the Saltire Youth Awards that are prevalent to this area. In terms of the wider achievement agenda for education and children's services, then they're a very valuable asset as far as I'm concerned, in terms of being the starting point for young people's journey into accreditation for their participation in particular activities. If you look at, I'm trying to think now if I got it, so it's still under 3.4, but it's the link to the local outcome improvement plan priority areas. There's a number of targets that it hits or certainly supports, in terms of supporting youth volunteering and employability skills, promoting volunteer pathways, intergenerational programmes, which they do a number of, and helping community groups support volunteer-led action. All of these elements for us within community learning and development make them a very obvious partner for us. So I suppose the conclusion is an agreement that I'm seeking to make the payment for 22,000 for the current financial year, because of the continued relationship that we have with them and the benefits to the young people and the wider communities.
Thanks, Fiona.
Happy to take questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Mackenzie.
Not a question, it's just that I think we should support this. It's, you know, they're doing a fantastic job. And I think at 6.6 there, where it says, we are no doubt the requirement for volunteers to come forward and support their communities is now greater than ever. And there's no doubt that these people are doing a great job. Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Mackenzie. Any other questions? Okie dokie. In that case, do members agree to approve the recommendation at 3.1? Yeah. Right, great. So item 10, Adult Learning Annual Report. This report provides an overview of the Adult Learning Team Annual Report 2024. And Ms. Morag Fletcher will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Morag.
Thank you. As you see, this report is about the Adult Learning Annual Report for 24-25. So the areas of work that we cover are adult literacies, English for speakers of other languages, community-based adult learning and Gaelic family learning. So within literacies in the last year or so, we've had an increase in referrals from the Job Centre for digital literacies, where they supply the laptop and we supply the tutoring for people to make sure that they can use the laptop to fill in their universal credit claim, their job seeker diary, etc. Our resale provision, we still have resettlement provision, which is paid for by the Resettlement Committee. And since we've moved on from Multiply to UK SPF, there's a little bit more wiggle room in there, which allows us to do a small amount of general resale. And as one of our tutors is also the EAL teacher for primary school, she's able to take on a few of our learners. So she has 2 general resale learners just now and another 3 starting next week. For community-based adult learning, we weren't able to provide any of this last year, but the reasons for that are covered in the report. And we have a plan in place for how we'll deliver this year, which involves mapping out the areas where they have land trusts or wind farm trusts and development workers in place so that they will be able to do the community-based learning there. And if they're doing it there, then we will concentrate what resources we have on the areas who don't have a trust or a development worker. Gaelic family learning is still running as it was, but also has extended into Seaforth House and Alzheimer's Scotland and the home care service. That's thanks to the Gaelic specific grant that we were able to secure for this year. So our tutor now works within all 5 wings of Seaforth House every week and also provides one-to-one support for a member of staff in Alzheimer's Scotland. Our next step will be to work with multimedia to create an app for the home care service to allow workers to check the app and learn or refresh either a word or a phrase before they go into somebody's house who speaks Gaelic as a first language to try and make that a bit more comfortable for them. I'm happy to take any questions on this.
Thanks, Morag.
Thank you.
Cheers. Does anybody have any questions for Morag? Councillor McLean.
Can I comment, having read the report? Thank you for the report. It's a very extensive report, actually, and it's good to see the last part, actually, which is users using it. But it's especially good to see that you're going in to deal with, how can I put it, aged people rather than old. But it's really, that's an interesting development, and I see it's received well. And I thank you I thank you all for the work you're doing. It's an important work, and wish you all the best in all you're doing.
Councillor Mackenzie.
I hope Councillor McLean wasn't looking over at me.
I'm afraid I don't have to look anywhere.
Yeah, I was just wondering what sort of numbers are involved. I know there's a graph there, which I'm not quite sure how it works out, but for non-English speakers, you know, what sort of numbers are we talking about here?
Oh, sorry. That's it. Sorry, is it English for speakers of other languages you're asking the question on? So is it a number of learners? At the moment, we have 20 odd in resettlement provision and 5 in general resale provision.
Sorry, if I can come back. That was before circumstances change, and now you're expecting that there'll be far more that
we
are
have the
not going to
20
be able to take part.
Yep, we have the 24-25 within resettlement provision, and we've already identified 2 women who are working with Mary in general provision just now, and another 3 people who are working in factories during the day and need an evening class, and they're going to come in and work with Mary next week.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Right. So if there are there any other questions? Oh. Yes, sure, you can come in, of course. Sorry, sorry, I didn't see that. I can never see you there. I was throwing light.
You're
too big.
you keep forgetting about me always. I mean, it's not a question, but I'll just make a comment and comment in the report, and also the work with, knowing how important the language of communication with peers and the community that surround you. So the importance of teaching English to non-English speakers or non-language. So it's very important. So well done, and thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Cheers, thanks. Right, so if there are no other questions, do members agree to the recommendations at 3.1? Okay, thanks, Morag. Right, so move on to the next item, item 11, which is Eilean Siar Strategy 25-27. The report at item 11 seeks approval to proceed to a formal consultation on Eilean Siar Strategy 25-27, and Ms. Renee Mason will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks.
Great. As long as I can figure out the microphone situation.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's a busy day. Picked the longest committee meeting to come to. We don't have an annual report this year. This is actually my 1-year anniversary working for the Comhairle, so that's very exciting, June the 17th. I've got a 1-pager though. On the page 14 of the strategic plan, there is the year in numbers. So our whistle-stop tour, our annual review, we had over 85,000 visitors, which is more than Storing Away receives for cruise ship visitors in all of our libraries across the island, so that's very exciting. And over 65,000 loans, so that's print and digital. Over 3,000 computer bookings with the public PCs, 5,000 reference queries, which extends from family genealogy, crofting histories, logbooks, assistance with printing, etc. And over 300 public programs, activities and events for children, adults and seniors with over 3,000 participants. So that's our year just gone in a nutshell. But what we're hoping to do today is firstly share the draft strategic plan with you for the library service, which there's a list in there in that draft strategy of all the different documents we've consulted. But the one that's really important besides the Comhairle documents for us is the Scottish National Public Library Strategy. So that strategic plan comes to an end this year, but due to the Scottish Government's dates with elections and things, they've got an interim plan in place for the next 12 months, and then there'll be a new one released in 2027. So our proposal is for a couple of years, our strategic plan, and then we'll align with theirs again in 2027. So that's the draft that you've got as an attachment. And in the interim period there, while we go through the consultation process for this, we've got an action plan with our top 6 priorities, which have come out of our library training day, my sort of audit of the service, and discussions with other stakeholders and the department and beyond over the past 12 months. Gaelic was identified as one of our key priorities in the library service. I'm currently working my way through a couple of books on the topic. One of them is, people will know Gaelic in the vernacular. I've got the name wrong, but it was well known. A couple of years ago, it was a big deal. And I've been talking with folks in the department about opportunities for Gaelic use in the community, and libraries provide really key opportunities. 4 of our 6 libraries have native Gaelic speakers, and Gaelic is used every day on the daily. We now have a Gaelic librarian in post who's been there since January, who's presenting to the Gaelic committee this afternoon. And we have 2 Gaelic students on placement starting this week and next week, and a Gaelic arts officer in partnership with Alanta and Employability, CNES. So a lot going on. So that's one of our first ones, and that connects us to the schools as well. Library staff, capacity building, community partnerships, our programming, our schools, and our branding and marketing, I guess, is just reimagining what libraries look like and what they should look like. I come from a place where they're perceived perhaps a little differently than they are in the UK, which is reflected in the investment, just quietly. Probably not supposed to be saying that, but just, yeah, one of the things that we see. So what we'd like to do as a library service is talk to our community about this strategic plan, the draft that we have, get feedback from them. I work closely with Orkney and Shetland library services and their library service managers, and Orkney are in the same stage as us with their strategic plan. So we have an opportunity there for peer-to-peer kind of collaboration and working together. And then there is a separate document, love and attachment, just with an outline of what that community consultation might look like. So it sort of starts off in-house with staff and some of our existing users, and then putting it out to the broader community. But one of the key parts of that, one of the things I'd love to see, is the re-establishment of the Member and Officers Working Group for Libraries that was in place a couple of years ago before my time, just to connect ourselves with the elected members. Nod to Francis. Yeah, just to improve our communication. I think one of the things perhaps we've struggled to do in the absence of the libraries manager is to get that message across about what libraries are doing. And one of the things I've noticed coming in from the outside is definitely around Gaelic and delivering on a lot of the Comhairle's aims and objectives for that as well. So happy to answer any questions about that. Anyone wants to pop down anytime, love to talk about libraries in the library too, but that's me.
Right, thanks, Frank.
No
So
worries.
does anybody have any questions? Councillor MacDonald. Let's see, we'll get you. That's it.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks very much for the presentation and happy anniversary.
I know, how exciting.
I'm more than happy to sit in your mug if elected. I've been banging on about libraries since I came into the Comhairle. I think they're vital, and I think I know some other authorities have had issues with budgets, and maybe if you've got 2 or 3 libraries, closing libraries is an option, but I think it's a Philistine thing to do, is closing libraries, because we're taking regressive steps, and it certainly doesn't help anybody. I've always been on about monetizing the archives that we have. I will get a mouse mat with a Stornoway Harbour from 1864 if it kills me before the end of the next term.
We definitely need to talk.
So, I mean, monetizing what we've got, and I've banged on about it before. We need to get the Gazette online. Other historical archives as well. You know, we've got historical magazines from various communities as well as the Gazette. But I think getting the Gazette online, it might be behind some kind of paywall. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Would we be able to access funding for somebody to put it online? We've certainly got, I think, a nod in the direction of it's available if we want it from Brian Wilson. I think I've spoken to Brian about this before. It would be the most accessed archive that we have. And I think working in collaboration with the Gazette itself, we could get something done about this. It's taken 8 years and nothing's been done, so maybe I'm more optimistic than anything else. But I certainly would like to see us push towards monetizing our wonderful archive, particularly of old maps and historical collections that we have. I think there's a resource there. I think together with the burgeoning cruise industry that we've got, people coming out to Stornoway, they don't want to spend a lot of money on food. They don't want to spend a lot of money on expensive tweed jackets. They want to spend a little bit of money on this, that, and the next thing. Fridge magnets, placemats, this, that, and the next thing. I think there's a market there we could certainly tap into, and I think we need to flesh this out. And for the 8th year on the trot, I will say, when are we going to do something about it? So I'm right behind you.
Do you want to come back?
Do we need to press the button?
You're on. No, you're
Am
on.
I missed your name, and I'm sorry about that, but we definitely need to have a chat. I've already been speaking with Brian about the Gazette and about the digitisation of that. His copies are actually in Stornoway Library, all his extra ones as well. And that's something that we talked about, Donald and I, last year with the budget shift and things like that. What can we do? Certainly the National Library, if you go in there, or any of like the British Library, they've got a gift shop and they've got all these additional things, but it requires investment for someone to develop those products and then how we selling them, rather than having them, on a dusty shelf or something in the corner. It does need to be quality. The other thing we could monetize in terms of cruise ships is our Wi-Fi, because we get quite a lot of cruise ship visitors coming in to use the free library Wi-Fi, but it's free, and that it's complicated, yeah, setting up the things, putting things in place to make it monetized. But the other thing we have, which the Comhairle and during COVID was COVID funded a few years ago, that didn't go live due to staffing constraints and issues, is a digital archive website. So we have a plan in place at the moment to put some things on there, starting with some of the community newspapers at first, because they're not copyrighted in the same way. So yeah, I think we're on the same page, and that's, I suppose, where I'm putting this to the committee today, is to make sure that I am also on the same page as the elected members and the direction that the Comhairle is headed in for libraries.
Thanks. Councillor Francis Murray, I think, was next. If you know, come on.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, and thanks, Rennie, for a very comprehensive report. I'm delighted to hear about the 65,000 loans and the number of visitors. And I think what you've been doing over the year that you've been in post, obviously, is bearing fruit. I particularly like the strategy. I like the cunning way it has been linked into various other strands, which I think will enable it to go forward as part of a joint vision and mission. And I look forward very much to working with you if we do reinstate Amaug. And I think number 6 here, the branding and marketing, I think is looking at this appendix is well underway. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I wish to endorse the claims by my fellow namesake, Councillor MacDonald, in front of me, in that digitisation is the best way forward, and I think we should have a partnership with the Library Service, with the Comhairle. I'm the chair of Stornoway Historical Society. We possess loads of maps, loads of films, and they're just lying there inaccessible to the public, and they could be online. And perhaps when you make an application for funding, think of the Comhairle when you're doing it. And the more things that are available to the public, the more educated they become, and that includes people in the Comhairle and possibly the libraries as well. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor McNeill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Thank you for that. It was, my question is regards Castleby School, that we just got a public library, and we are looking forward to getting a new school, which will also have a new library. Have you had any thoughts or inputs on what could potentially go into in there compared to what we have at the moment, which is it's okay, functional. It's not great. So I would like to think that we could kind of up the ante and get the visitors and usage of the library. Please.
I don't know. Sorry, do I press the button?
No, you're on. If you're red, you're on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was just there last week, actually, visiting with Dee. So very excitingly, this summer, there's going to be loads of school holiday programs in Castle Bay Library, which has seen a drop off in recent years, just because of the situation with how it's set up. Dee, who's in the library there, has been working to move some of the collection, so the book stock, away up to Stornoway for storage, because we do reservations between, so getting that back is easy enough, but to create a bigger space. And I'm working on getting some mobile shelving in there as well, so we could make it bigger. I was chatting actually this time last year, probably with Dan in the department, about the new school and the plans there. And there's an architect plan for a possible new library. I think it's about 10 years old now, but it's actually quite a good plan. And it has breakout rooms. If it happens, and fingers crossed that it gets off the ground, it'll be the best library in the Western Isles. It's quite a good plan. So we've had a chat about that already, and yeah, it's looking good. And we have a good working relationship with a Glasgow-based design company who specialise in libraries and do a lot of design work in Scandinavia, Scandinavian countries, where they get to spend a lot of money on their libraries. I've talked to them about the idea of Castle Bay Library and what it might look like. Multi-purpose, lots of movable things, lots of wheels on shelving and spaces for the community. So you're definitely on our minds a lot.
It's good.
Very good. Thank you for that. Also, if you do set up a MOG, I'll put my name forward as well.
Yeah.
And I can try to do the nodding together.
Can you switch off your mic, please, there, Tom? Thanks. Yeah. No, leave it on. Leave it on. No, it won't. Come on. Come on. There's the ones. Who's got a mic on? Blake, do you want to switch your mic off, please?
I'll switch it off.
Yeah. Okay, you're in. Thanks.
As the chair of the library, I think I would like to welcome you, Rainey, and thanks
Thank
for
you.
the report. I was just going to ask a small question that I raised, I think, yesterday, was in terms of the junior borrowing from the mobile library. When you look at the junior borrowing from the library itself, it's equivalent to the adult borrowing, more or less the same number. But the junior for the mobile seems to be very down. Is there ways, obviously, that's...
Is that in both or just the
In
one
both.
you're
It
referring
looks
to?
in both.
Yeah.
It looks in used and it looks in loose as well.
The mobile, something I've learned in the year that I've been here, our particular mobile libraries, which are internationally known, just everyone knows, they're more of a housebound service perhaps than a mobile that would stop and people would come on board. So they do a lot of home deliveries to people, and our mobile library drivers both are native Gaelic speakers, so they tend to service a lot of the elderly folks in the community. And they do that with something that happened during COVID was actually selecting books, bagging them up and taking them into homes, which is probably a little bit above and beyond. Sometimes they tell me they have cups of tea with people. I say, don't tell me, don't tell me. So there was a bit of a, which is good on the one hand, but yes, we recognise the other. So the Lewis and Harris mobile, we've just done a review of the service and it's going to change up a little bit about where they go starting in August. And one of the things that Ian has worked on this year is getting better connections with the schools. So when he goes out to the west side, there's two, Shawbost, I don't know if the other school escapes me, but there's two schools out there. He has almost the entire school comes on board, the kids choose books, and he signed those schools up as members, I think 3 months ago, and there's been a big increase there. So that's something we're working on and always looking for different ways to engage with them. But sometimes it's just the fact that the kids are in school when the mobiles are coming around, so there's not the junior levels there.
That's great. I mean, the child sessions as well, I think you've answered part of the question is Castle Bay, there was only one session, and the child participation is lower compared to the other schools. It's just
yeah, that's something we're working on definitely. And there was a couple of things. One was probably staff capacity, and just don't want to say they're a long way away because I'll get in trouble. But there's a Gaelic proverb about Barra. It's far out, but it can be reached. So that's building Dee's capacity there. And my role, I come from a teaching background, so school programs is easy peasy for me. But I went down to chat to her. She's established some new partnerships already in Castle Bay with different people coming in to offer the activities, because it's difficult when you're a lone worker in the library there. You've got to still serve people as well as run the events. So this summer, there's at least 2 or 3 things a week over the summer at the moment, which is looking really, really good. And I also spoke with some of the other people in Castle Bay in shops and different parts about that, people that like to make who've made some comments on social media or emailed me directly about that issue. And so I went and had a chat with a few of them and said, we love partnership working. If they've got ideas or if there's groups locally looking for a space, the space is there. So I think there's going to be a crochet group starting for adults. So yeah, it's on the up for sure.
Thanks. I look forward to reconvening the MOG.
I know, you'll make you look very good.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a good report. I mean, the libraries are the heart of all the communities, and I don't know how many are employed in the department now, but I remember at one point, I think it went from 21 down to 14 or something, which is about a third, exactly a third taken away. And, we weren't, unfortunately, we weren't giving them sufficient support. but I don't know what the staffing is now. I've never heard such a positive reaction to a MAUG.
I know. I was thinking that myself. I know.
There's so many volunteers here.
I know. No, we can't get them. No,
I think we'll just make it, everybody here, you're in the MAUG. Yeah.
Everybody wants to be on it, right?
Yeah, I, as far as I agree with everything that's been said about digitalization and so forth. The cafe area in the library, the old cafe area in the library, I don't know if that's been made sufficient use of, because I never seem to see people in there. Okay, very occasionally somebody's playing drafts or chess or something, but I wonder if that could be made more use of. But anyway, I'll volunteer for the MAUG if I'm
Excellent.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Ray. So, just firstly, do members agree to? Where are we? Do members agree to approve the recommendation at 3.1? Right. So, part of that, item B was, well, part B was to pick the MAUG. So I'm going to bring Derek in, and we'll maybe do it now, and see who wants to be appointed. So can you switch off your mic then, please, Ray?
Sorry.
Let the fight begin. Right. So,
Chair, I'm just to confirm, when a committee establishes the MAUG, the chair and vice chair are automatically appointed, but I think the committee is looking to re-establish the former membership, which was 3 members, chair, vice chair, and Dr. Francis Murray. And you may wish to consider appointing another 2 to 3 members from the MAUG. It'll help to facilitate discussion, but it'll also make it easier to achieve a quorum, which we did have a bit of difficulty with when there were only 3 members. And I suspect you won't have any difficulty getting volunteers.
no, I don't think so. No. So can we call for nominations, please? Seconded. Seconded by Malcolm. Huh?
2 members.
So is there anyone else who wants to put their names forward? Councillor Mackenzie and Norrie. Well, let's just do one at a time. First is Councillor Mackenzie. So does anybody want to second Councillor Mackenzie? Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor MacDonald was.
Councillor MacDonald definitely showed an interest. So well, Councillor
Norman MacDonald
was the first one. So he's been appointed, right? So that's Councillor Norman MacDonald we've got. Yeah, right. Okay. So someone seconded Councillor Mackenzie. Right. So one more. Hang on. One thing, we've all got stored away ones here. Yeah, I would say. So Councillor McNeil, who's seconding Councillor McNeil? Right, everybody. Okay, everybody's counting. Right. So are you happy to go on, Councillor McNeil? Yeah, right. So that's 3 then.
7. That's 7 members. That's.
Is that 4? No, because it was Francis.
No.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
So just to confirm, the nominations, in addition to the 3 previous members, is Councillor Norrie MacDonald, Scarin Roo, Malcolm MacDonald, Ray Mackenzie, and Ian Archie McNeil. That's 7 members, and officers will be appointed by the Chief Executive.
Is that too many? 7's all right. You're all right with 7. You're all right with that, Tom?
Got a good distribution as well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bit more of a distribution. Okay, we'll go with that then. If everyone's happy with that. Good next one. So it's like, I'll remember this when it's a really boring MAUG that comes up. I'll expect you all to be volunteering for it as well. Right. Okay. So thanks. We'll move on to the next item. Thanks, Renee. Thanks. Right. So we're on item 12, which is local negotiating committee teaching staff. I am ruling item 12 as urgent. This is the draft minute of the LNCT meeting of 12th of June 2025 and has been submitted for information and for noting. Do members agree to note the minute? Yeah. And item 13 is reports outstanding. And do members agree to note the reports outstanding? Did you want to say anything on that? Yeah, you did.
Thank you, Carrie. And do you actually like if you hear point the policy is on phone in live. Die weet je bij vorm te gaan closen. Hier point is een actually policy is on phone in live. Als je has de cooperation, I guess als je natuurlijk gemeen hier persons in Jishulus en hart kan naar committee. Naar een point back in een agenda nu. En drie point als je has er bij kies nog UHI is on viagen die frakkerdijn is on een ijsgewasje is zuiliger. So natuurlijk jury kind committee als je has de jury en ijs in een hart committee. Meer het euro tussen goed go UHI is on frakkerd agus teik is on visser is on een ijsgewasje achat dan ik kaler as voet behaast. So mi haast kan hisken nog eens het zo'n janu ach met jury kind werk als je has de zuiliger zin. Agus een keer verhaal agenda en je kunt ook maar gaan. Just to clarify the third one.
Okay, thanks. Right, so we'll that's fine. Well, now the next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on the 17th of June. 23rd of September, thanks. And we will now move into private. So